While a major concern and the tensions of many Nigerians has been turned to major opposition parties and political parties in the country, looking at People's Democratic Party, Labour Party, the NNPP, APC, and for a whole of concern about the expected role in checking excesses of the ruling political party, APC, as well as provide a better consensus and platform in the political process. Joining us tonight to express the concerns of Nigeria's opposition party and how this can enhance better democracy in the country is Najib Babalika. He's a policy consultant and a political analyst. Thanks so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes, the statement we've had from the National Convention, we've had from your group in respect to unveiling a paradigm in National Convention for Democracy, the national opposition movement. We've seen a concern about opposition in Nigeria going back to 1999, the struggle. We've also witnessed a transfer of power from a particular political party to another political party. All of that was to look at how better democracy can work. What is your assessment, very briefly?
Thank you, Michael, and good evening, Nigerians. The issue of good governance in our democracy is and has continued to be a struggle, a consistent struggle. We got independence in 1960, and just 6 years afterwards, we witnessed a coup and then a counter coup. And between then, in 1967, the Biafran War started, ended in 1970. We had the Second Republic, which began in 1979 and was quickly interfered by the military junta led by Buhari and was ousted. Then we had the June 12, 1993 election, which was annulled. Then, come 1999, we had the PDP with Obasanjo as president. In between all of this, you could see that the country has gone through a very, very tremendous stage and, struggles and levels of development. But let me not deviate. You're talking about the electoral processes, right? The digitalization of elections in Nigeria began with the introduction of the card reader, you remember, in 2015, which brought the first opposition government in power in this country. Then in 2023, we saw the introduction of the bimodal voter aggregation system, BVAS. But up till now, it shows that, if looking at our off-cycle elections, it shows that our elections have not witnessed the progress, the quality, the transparency that is required for a burgeoning democracy like ours here in this country. It has shown that we haven't achieved much. The Electoral Act, itself left a very area of ambiguity when it said that INEC can choose to transmit or not transmit results. And that has actually left the electoral process.
It's on the guideline of INEC.
It's on the guideline, but it should be clearly spelled out what should be done, what is obtainable, and what is not obtainable. But that is not clearly spelled out. It is vague. It allows INEC, to make decision for itself, and that has still, left the electoral processes in some kind of turmoil, because we are not seeing the desired results.
But yes, as long as we continue to assess what INEC are doing, that those are really feels the political parties are the bedrock of our democracy. When you look at internal, democracy, internal politics of political parties, the ideology of political parties would have made the job of INEC very easy. But assessing what we have, that those are feels, the political parties are probably the perpetrators or the kind of destroyers of our elections. Do you feel that the pressure is worth it?
I didn't deviate from your first question, the question is about this movement that was being birthed today. We had a World Press Conference when Dr. Otumba Shogun, a very respected Nigerian, came out with us, along with other stakeholders that, are comfortable with how the country is being run. Opposition has never been at its lowest ebb as it is right now. We have a ruling government that has continued to meddle in the affairs of opposition political parties. You could see that the People's Democratic Party, Wike, has been given a minister and he has become a thorn.
Is it wrong to appoint one from another party to also serve? That those are few, this is not the first time we've had such an appointment.
It is not just wrong, it is unconstitutional, and I will give you the reference.
Is it not, Wike is not a Nigerian?
He is a Nigerian.
But as a Nigerian, anyone can serve Nigeria after elections.
Okay, let me tell you and check. Our constitution has clearly spelled out, the requirement, the criteria in which a minister should have before nominated into the cabinet. People continue to reference Chief Bola Ige, when Obasanjo appointed him from the AD extraction to form, some kind of inclusion in governance. But the thing is that it wasn't contested by anybody. In our constitution, the criteria for you to become a minister is the same criteria to be elected as a member of House of Representatives. What is that criteria? First, being a member of that political party, and secondly, to be sponsored by that political party. Is Wike a member of the APC? No. Is Wike sponsored by APC? No. But that is the constitutional requirement to be minister.
So, as long as I'm going to try to fast-check that concerning press, those are views that ministerial positions are appointment by the president. Well, as long as I want to confirm that part of the sections of the constitution that you are raising. But let's look at about building Nigeria, getting people who has the capacity to do the job, which this president feels that he's trying to, select capable Nigerians to help him deliver. Why should opposition, why would PDP point fingers against the president or the ruling party for destroying their party? That those are views internally that some of the parties are not doing their best, but they are fast in pointing fingers to the ruling party.
Let me make a clarification here. The thing, we have a democracy. A democracy should have all the indices that is clearly obtainable from where we are copying. We are operating a federal system of government. We copied this democracy we're practicing from the United States. There are ideological bases, there are ideological grounds, there are different school of thoughts that come together and lay vision for prosperity and development of a country. But that is not obtainable here. We have a winner-take-it-all situation when once you are elected to power, you can go ahead on a wild chase. Remember, on the first day when the president was elected, before constituting his cabinet, and you can see now, President Trump has just been re-elected as president of the United States. He has already appointed his cabinet, but the president had to take 6 months or more with a lot of consultation trying to form a cabinet. That shows you that the country always suffers. The issue of governance always suffers. The main concern of every government should be the security and social well-being of its people. You can agree with me that this country, Nigeria, a lot of people have been, drawn out of prosperity to the poverty lane. China has moved more than 300 million out of poverty to prosperity. India has moved more than 100 million people out of poverty to prosperity. When countries are looking at the global south and looking at economies like the Asian tigers, where there is development that we can align with, where we are as a country that we are trying to meet up with a lot of obligation to manage our resources, we have an administration that has put more effort in dealing with the West and trying to make some alignment with the West. Don't forget, the president sold the Renewed Hope Manifesto to Nigerians. But what is being implemented today in this country are IMF policies, which IMF praised at the first instance, and now IMF are coming to say that our economy is not working. So who is fooling who?
Do you feel some of his policies are not popular, are not homegrown? Because it looks that the president has insisted in many times that he's taking us on the route of stabilizing this country's future, that we are running out of loss. As a matter of fact, there was nothing left for this country, and that's the reason he's trying to take this route. Subsidy removal, floating on Naira, was necessary, according to them.
That's what we are being told,
But do you,
if the economy has been properly, I'm not saying that this administration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, is the problem. No, he inherited the problem. Government is a continuum. We have been on this drive of financial recklessness, and it has caused us to be where we are, because the prosperity and well-being of people shouldn't be threatened. And we should understand clear that when we're talking about inflation, government spending is what causes inflation. Borrowing is what causes inflation. We must, like you said, look at homegrown policies that should address our challenges, our own problems, not borrowed, borrowed-oriented policies from countries that do not match our own realities. It doesn't work that way. But this administration, I believe that they have their own good intentions, but the implementation of the policies of this government has actually been very, very slow and not rapid as we expected.
all right. I mean, a concern about political parties right now. They have been also pointing fingers towards the judiciary. Many political parties are having their cases in the courts. Sometimes court order restricting these, court order making this interpretation.
Yeah.
Those are views, and even your group have also raised concern about judiciary protecting the institutions of government. Is it that judiciary should be dragged into all of these, we call it quagmire within the political space?
The judiciary are not being dragged. There is overreach of judicial intercourse in our politics. And why do I say so? Because we have three institutions of government: the executive, the legislature, the executive to implement the laws, the legislature to make these laws, the judiciary to interpret these laws. But the judiciary, justice must seem to have been served. And in most cases in this country, we can see what your question directly refers to: the Rivers State. Now, what is happening in Rivers? If care is not taken, the issues that are happening in Rivers will actually even be worse if it's not properly managed. And why? It's because of this judicial overreach. And who causes this judicial overreach is the politicians that continue to give exotic gifts to judicial officers in order to get so-called justice. And that's why it is a problem. Our criminal justice system has a problem. Our complete judicial, we need a new constitution. That's just it. Honestly, I mean, the country needs a Magna Carta. Is it
an issue of constitution? Because those are few. What we have, that there's nothing wrong with what we have, but it's just about people adhering and the implementation of the laws that we have in this country. And even the Chief Justice of Nigeria said, don't allow the few bad judges, in quote, to destroy our institution judiciary, that we still have, people of character within that region. That is even the politicians that are mounting pressure on the judiciary. They are pointing fingers to the politicians. So it looks that clearly politics is destroying our institutions and not our institutions destroying themselves.
I will talk about institutions, but first let me talk about the geopolitical setting of how our
because of time.
On how our politics is being built. Nigeria's politics is being built on a northern-southern divide. So at all the time, at the center, if you have a northerner at the center, the southerners are skeptical. If you have a southerner at the center, the northerner are skeptical. Then why should we not, consider restructuring? The word restructuring has been misplaced in the Nigerian media parlance because we have lost its original meaning. The meaning of restructuring is the country should go back to pre-1960. The arrangement we had in 1960 to have premiers representing different parts of the country at all time and a loose center that will hold the various parts of the country is what is desirable to have socio-economic development. When there is suspicion at all time, that's what I call the ascendancy problem, and that's what we continue to witness. Earlier I said that now if you are not going to vote Tinubu in 2027, the one issue that will be central is that you will need a southern candidate that has an eligibility for 4 years. If you bring a Peter Obi, for example, and say, let him run, a lot of people will say, okay, because of the rotational presidency arrangement, the South have 4 years, and Peter Obi has an eligibility for 8 years. Will he run 4 years and say he will not seek re-election? So these are the fundamental questions we must ask.
If we had Atiku from the north contesting after Buhari, was that not also against this arrangement?
That was,
and if he had won, what would have likely happened?
That alone, it wouldn't have happened because that alone had already.
He came second, and the rest.
That was why he came second. Ordinarily, he should have won, but that was the main issue that made people like Nyesom Wike to leave the party because of the discontentment of, the rotational agreement that wasn't agreed upon.
All right. Again, after the program, you probably may share your own side of the confirmation, because the confirmation I have here is that the head of the executive ministries are nominated by the president and then presented to the Senate, which is on the section 147(6) of our constitution, gives the Senate 21 days to complete the screening for confirmation or rejection by a simple majority. According to section 147 of the constitution, the only qualification for one to be appointed as minister is that the person must be qualified for election into the House of Representatives. If approved, they receive the commission and scroll it.
Listen, you just said it. Check now, what is the criteria to be qualified to be elected as a member of House of Reps? That's what I said.
Political party might be APC, might be PDP, might be ABGA, might be ADC, and all of those things. But as I said, looking at
the vehicle to vote there. That's what I'm saying.
We'll do this off camera. Looking as alternative, that those are views. In 2023, we had an alternative. People said Labour Party was a party that may help salvage the situation in our country. There were those that are having a concern about, now that you people have raised, your group have raised issues of trying to seek for an alternative. Do you feel that completely the political parties we have, more than 20 political parties we have registered in the country already, attending meetings with INEC as stakeholders of our democracy, do you feel they have felt what it means to be political parties and now seeking for an ideology of pushing for an alternative for people to have to chart a way forward? As we wrap up,
the movement, the opposition movement we birthed today is not intended to metamorphose into a political party. It is a platform that invites stakeholders, captains of industries, intellectuals, academics, and people from different walks of life to come together to have this conversation of having a formidable coalition that will take power in 2027. And that must be addressed now, because right now, with President Tinubu's performance, like I said earlier, he needs 25% of northern votes to deliver the presidency in 2027. President Tinubu cannot get more than 15% in the north. So that tells you that it is clearly becoming very, very open that there's going to be an opportunity to form a new government in 2027 only if opposition leaders come together and say this is the path we're taking to reclaim Nigeria, to put this country on a better path, and to unlock the potentials of this country to the world.
But if things get better before 2027, do you feel that the dream will be defeated?
Nigerians will make their referendum.
If President Bola Tinubu get to fix this country in the next 2 years and more left for his administration?
I believe Nigerians will re-elect him if he can do fine and turn things around.
So your passion behind this is about getting Nigeria work, or it's not a personal interest?
No.
It's not to push an ideology for one person.
At all.
It's for the betterment of the country.
That's right.
And if those that are having a concern, because it's a big tax, if we look at issue of vote buying and concern on economic hardship in the situation, that those that feels that there's no how you can interpret all of those grammar to one in the village who probably doesn't understand what we are saying. So the language that they only understand is about what leaders bring to them, what leaders shares to them, what leader can exchange in respect to getting support from them during the campaign. And how do you feel this can work when you understand all of these dynamics of our population?
You're emphasizing what has become to be known as stomach infrastructure, exploiting the people. What our people need is better healthcare, better roads, stable electricity, and a secured environment that people can go to farm and be productive. You know, Nigerians don't need more. Before now, a Nigerian is okay with what he will get. He gets his 2 Indomie and 2 eggs with Meshai. The Daily Trust made a publication last week that Meshais don't even sell eggs now. People cannot afford it, not to talk about sardines. So the economy is biting hard. There are a lot of malnutrition people out there. And what? Have our land changed? Our lands haven't changed. Our lands are arable, they are there. But the governance model is not favoring our people. Government exists primarily for the prosperity of its people. If our standard of living are not being improved, then what are we talking about? If they said that with fuel subsidy removal, they have saved over 50 billion, and now they are going to borrow 2 billion, what are we talking about? So that tells you that there's a lot of skepticism on how governance is being run. That is why the tax reform bill now in the front of the National Assembly is being contested, you know, because there's dissatisfaction, there's distrust that has been seeded.
Najib Babalika, policy consultant and political analyst, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts on the program. We do hope that this movement will continue to inspire people to hold leaders accountable, which I know you definitely subscribe to.
That's right.
Thanks so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
A lot of concerns about political parties in the country, the opposition, lack of internal democracy, the anti-party activities, factional disputes, lack of accountability, as corrupt practices has continued to tear some political parties apart. There are those that are pointing fingers to the ruling party, but there are those that are having a concern that you have to fix your own problem other than pointing fingers to others. But in all of this, what matters to common Nigeria is the dividends of democracy, giving back to the people, giving life to the people, and creating social amenities that will better the lives of the people, because government exists for the people. That's the size of our conversation tonight on Big Talk. A lot of concern about how we can get this country working. On the program, we'll continue to make those robust a conversation. See you again tomorrow. My name is Edikan Michael. Bye-bye for now.